Hey, my name is Bailey. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 books I want to read in 2021. And now that I'm saying that number, it sounds impossible. So that's sad. These aren't like new releases or like books I want to acquire this year that I want to read. These are books from my backlist that stare at me on my shelf and beg to be read, and I just ignore them. Most of these books are books that I have tried to read before and then kind of given up on, and now that I'm going to be going to university this year, I want to read as many of them as possible because the idea of leaving a lot of these books unread makes me sad, because once I go to university I can't bring all my books with me, so it's going to be harder to get to my backlist stuff. So these are books that I want to get off of the unread pile before I go away, because they deserve that. They've been here long enough, you know, they've been paying rent here long enough, they deserve to be appreciated. So we're gonna start off with the one that's most important to me to read, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and then like in tandem with that, Crooked Kingdom, but like this is the main priority. This is the first book in the Six of Crows duology, but I'm pretty sure it's becoming a trilogy. I remember hearing trilogy talk, so I think this is becoming a trilogy. The last time I tried to read it, apparently I got to page 22 and then gave up, so that is just solid. I've tried to read this I think about 7 times. I can recite the first line of this book perfectly. Juiced had 2 problems, the moon and his mustache. I hear people rave about this all the time. I'm sure you do too, because this is a very popular book. And I've been told by my friends and stuff that I'm going to love this. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to film this video right now, so I guess we're gonna jump cut to Bailey another day talking to you about this. So before I continue talking about Six of Crows, I just want to mention that this video is about books on my backlist that I want to read before the end of 2021, and that's true. But it's mostly about books that I want to read before September 2021, basically, because like I mentioned before, I am going to university and won't be able to bring these with me. Books I want to read in 2021 is a catch-all, but I actually really want to read these before September, or majority of these before September. So I thought I'd put that little clarification in there. Let's talk more about Six of Crows. I tried to read this the first time the year it came out, so I've been trying for a few years. This is the year I want to do it, because if I don't read it this year, I feel like I'm never going to. It just, my interest wanes every day. Like, I've been told I'm going to love this book by so many people, but I feel like now I kind of have this hatred toward it just because I can't seem to get past the beginning of it. I've heard that this is very character driven, and I kind of agree with that for what I've read, and that's not really great for me. I really like action, and from what I've read, this doesn't have the most action in the beginning, at least. I'm currently working on a project where I'll hopefully read this book. Not hopefully, I will. So this should get done. And if this gets done, I'd like to read Crooked Kingdom this year as well. So hopefully I'll be reading both of these this year, but at least Six of Crows. As a synopsis, this book follows 6 criminals and they do a heist. I feel like everyone knows what this is about, but I know that there's 6 criminal people and their leader is Kaz Brecker, all morally gray, they're heisting. I don't really want to read the synopsis because I have avoided details of the plot for a while, so if I can continue to do so, that'd be great. I do know a lot of spoilers about this series though, but I just don't know like the actual plot. So I'm gonna leave that up to mystery for myself, but I feel like we all kind of already know what this is about anyway, so I feel like you'll be okay. Next up we have the Grisha trilogy. This is the same vein as Six of Crows. I've read Shadow and Bone. I read this last year. I think I gave it 2.5 or 3 stars. It's a very classic YA fantasy, and it didn't suck, but there's also things about this I hate, mainly the main character and her main love interest, so that's a problem. I started Siege and Storm, and I got, how far into it? 107 pages in, but then I was googling Dark Lena fan art because I like the Dark Lena. Please don't come for me. And I was googling the fan art and I was going through it, and then this like meme came up, like a Tumblr meme came up, so I was reading it, and it spoiled something in the series that I actually didn't know, because I, again, know a lot of spoilers about this series just because of how old it is, and it spoiled something that I didn't actually know, and that I was about to find out in the book, and I never picked it up after that because I was so mad at Google for doing that to me. So I'm still spiteful, honestly. So I never finished the series, so I really need to continue the series. But I'm still so spiteful that I got spoiled for that thing in Siege and Storm, and it makes me so mad. This book follows Alina, and she's a sun summoner. I think that that's the title of her thing. It's been a while since I read this. Like, I know the general magic of this, but I don't remember like the semantics of it. So I think she's called a sun summoner. I don't know, but she didn't know that. She's an orphan. She's not special, but then one day she discovers that she's a sun summoner and can do things with light, basically. And this dude named the Darkling comes and brings her to this Grisha, because Grisha are the magic people, basically. He brings her to this, like, Grisha training, like, school thing in the capital, and it devolves from there. I probably need to reread this book, I'm realizing. Like, I remember what happened in this book, but I do not remember the itty-bitty details or the semantics of the world, so I feel like it'd be good to reread this to read the series. So I'm gonna have to get on that. That's it for Leigh Bardugo stuff, so we can brush that off the shoulders and we can move on. Next up, we have another book that would complete a trilogy, and that is Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the third book in the Illuminae trilogy. I read Illuminae and I read Gemina and I loved them, and then this book came out and I haven't read it, and I think I'm going to need to reread the first two books to read this because, like, I don't remember the details about this series. I remember the characters, I remember what's generally going on. Details, I've got none for you. And I've tried to reread the series, but for some reason my brain cannot, like, get wrapped around these multimedia aspects anymore. My younger self was smarter than my older self, apparently. So I don't know what I'm gonna do there, but I do want to finish the trilogy just because I hate being, like, 2/3 of the way through it. And I really like the first two books, so I don't know why I procrastinated so much that now I'm confused. I just hit my head on my light and it's really painful. Okay. Illuminae! I'm going to fill in for past Bailey because I did such a bad job explaining this book. Basically, Illuminae follows this girl named Katie and this boy named Ezra, and they are exes. And they live on this tiny planet called Carenza. This book takes place in space, by the way. And one day this corporation like opens fire on this planet. Basically, they're like taking it over. It's a little mining planet, I do believe, and they are forced to evacuate on these two ships, and this fleet has this AI system called Aiden, and it's malfunctioning, and at the same time one of the ships is infested with this deadly plague. So basically what's happening is they're in space and there's this super deadly plague that's like basically like a zombie thing. Like when you get it, you become like violent. And then also an AI that's kind of trying to kill them, but with like good intentions. Morally correct intentions, but like since it's an AI, they cannot, like, you know, read situations. It's AI. Anyway, that's future Bailey's synopsis. Basically, it's like zombies and like deadly plague stuff mixed with AI gone wrong in space. And I really liked the first two books, so I really want to continue on, but I'm going to have to read this, and I don't know if I can wrap my brain around it anymore. I feel stupid. Next up, we have This Mortal Coil by Emily Savada. This is the first book in a sci-fi dystopia trilogy, and I've tried to read this 2 times now, and I've recommended this a couple times. I know a lot of people really like this book. It's not that well known, but then the people who do read it really love it, and from what I've read, I've really enjoyed it, but I have not really gotten past the first 100 pages. Nothing is wrong with this book, but every time I try to read it, I just cannot get past the first 100 pages. I don't know why. I just kind of stop reading it, but this is the year that I'm going to read it, I think, hopefully. That's the plan. Basically, this book follows a girl named Katerina, and she is a hacker, but specifically a gene hacker, because it's like years into the future, and you can hack your DNA or like modify your DNA and genes, so you can like change your hair color whenever you want, that kind of stuff. And she is the daughter of this really famous science guy. I guess scientist is what a science guy would be called, and he's also a really famous gene hacker, so, you know, he's a smart cookie, so she's a smart cookie, and he ends up getting kidnapped by this corporation called Cartaxis, and 2 years after his kidnapping, Katerina comes into contact with this Cartaxis soldier who tells her some news about her father. Hi, it's me again to fill in the gaps of the synopsis I gave. I forgot to mention there's a deadly disease. Basically, like, the disease that's going around blows you up. Like, it makes your cells blow up and you blow up in this bloody, powdery mess. And so her dad was kidnapped by this organization to find a cure for the disease, and this soldier guy shows up and he brings her the sad news that her dad's dead, but he did theoretically develop a vaccine before he died, but nobody can access it, so he needs her help to release it, because he assumes that she would know how to get past any, like, defenses her father put up around this vaccine. I feel like it's really focusing on taking down a corrupt organization, so yeah. If you haven't noticed already, I'm not very good at synopses, and I also don't read synopses before I read books very often, just because I like discovering things while I read the books, because I find that synopses kind of give away too much a lot of the time. But that is the most I know about this book, but I really, really, really want to finish it, finally, because I do really like what I've read of this book. So this year will be the year. Maybe, possibly, hopefully. Next up, we have Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Oh no, this is the Priory of the Orange Tree. I've started this. I got 160 pages in, and I fucking loved what I read of this book. I was trying to buddy read this with Ariel. I'm so sorry, Ariel, that we never finished this. I started reading this in August, and if you don't know what happened in August, I've mentioned it a couple times, I fell into one of the worst depressive episodes of my life, and basically didn't get out of bed for like a whole month. So I ended up not finishing this book, but I loved, like I mean loved, what I read of this book. I thought the writing was amazing. I thought the female characters were just so powerful and amazing, honestly. And that's not very descriptive. I just realized I said amazing twice. They were powerful, they were strong-willed, and I thought that they were great. And I just stopped because I just couldn't get the motivation to do anything. And now it's been too long, and I'm gonna have to reread those 160 pages to finish this book. And I'm really intimidated by it anyway, so I don't know, it stresses me out, but I do want to try again at some point. This is a adult fantasy. I think it's getting a sequel, if I heard that correctly, or like, I think I saw something about a sequel. But this is an adult fantasy book, and it follows a lot of characters, and there's dragons and stuff, and I actually don't know a solid plot on this. Like, from the 160 pages I read, I can't even tell you a solid plot, obviously because it's like an 800-page book, and 160 pages is like barely a dent. I can tell you what the back says, basically. We have a lot of characters. One of them is Queen Sabrin. She is the ruler of a matriarchy. We love that. And she is having struggles with having a daughter because she is single. So she needs to have a daughter to uphold the matriarchy line, you know, but there's assassins trying to get her. Then there's Ead. I don't really know how to pronounce her name, but I'm gonna say Ead? Eid? I don't know. She is this foreign woman who is posing as a court lady in Queen Sabrin's court to protect her, but the queen doesn't know that. Ead, she wields magic, but in Queen Sabrin's kingdom, which is in Innis, magic is forbidden, but she's using it to protect her. It's like, it's dramatic. And then across the sea, in the place where they like dragons and stuff, there's Tanae, again, don't know how to pronounce these names, and she's training to become a dragon rider. It's a very female-led story. There are men in the story, but it's a very female-led story, and I loved the first 160 pages. I just didn't continue. I need to read it. I honestly think I'm going to love it once I finally complete it, but now that I've stopped reading it, I'm intimidated again, so we'll see when I get back around to this, but hopefully it's soon. Last but not least, we have the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. The books that are in this series that I have not read is Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash. Assassin's Blade used to be on this list, but I actually read it already this year, so already being productive on my goals, apparently. I do want to reread the whole series, though, because it's been such a long time since I was caught up on this, so trying to read Kingdom of Ash is not going to work out just because I'm so detached from the world. So I have started my reread already with Assassin's Blade, but I do plan to reread this series and finish it before September because it really frustrates me that I never finished it. So this series starts out with Throne of Glass, and it follows Selena Sardathian, who is this super great assassin. She's super deadly, super high class, I don't know. This series actually starts out with her in prison, this like slave camp, and the prince of her country comes and offers her a deal for her freedom. Basically, if she will be his champion in the king's competition, she can have her freedom, basically, if she wins, because the king's competition is basically all these thieves and criminals and such are going to compete to become his assassin, like his personal assassin, and after 5 years, they gain their freedom, I do believe. The years might be a little off, but same idea. So she agrees to this, and this book basically follows her in this competition to beat out other criminals to become the king's assassin. But then there's like dark magic undertones. Ooh. I used to like the series. My opinions have like fluctuated. So we'll see how I feel about this once I finally finish it. So those are all the books that I need to read in 2021. More specifically, I would really like to read them before September, but we'll see what happens. There's a lot of them. I didn't realize there was this many, especially like taking into account the rereads I'm gonna have to do to finish some of the series I want to finish. So we'll see how plausible it is that like I complete this, but I will check in with you later in the year and see how this is going, because I really want to cut down my backlist this year. That's kind of the big goal. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I've been Bailey. Have a good day. Bye-bye.